Hello, good morning, and the start of a new day, not a new month yet, although midweek we can expect that as well, entering April, and let's hope that April the 1st doesn't mean April Fool. There is enough going on in the world to make us realise that the present governance isn't fit for anything. It's very poor. And that there needs to be introduced that dreaded word to politicians, reform. And it has come. Ho, ho, ho. And where has it come from? Well, the bitterly divided, if you like, groups from the ruling elite and the ruling elite, the people and the leaders, that's where it's come from our royal family, from our future king, whose tour of the Caribbean was apparently not all it should have been. That's putting it politely. And the king has realized it. I call him the king, the future king. Prince William has realized it and has called a summit of his staff and has said, hey, listen, we've got to examine this because this is crazy. And not only that, I'm getting the backlash of people who know what they want, and they have said what they want. And of course, what's happened is I just had a minor disaster, but we will put that right because we can report on what the king said. Hopefully, yes. And of course, he shares the headlines with the war in Ukraine, which is now beginning to show that governments throughout the world is crackpot. Incompetent people who are incapable of running anything, are in the top echelons, and a fine bloody mess they're making of it. And so reform should be in the wind. And it won't come in my lifetime, but it may come because the future king, King William, has expressed his dismay at the sort of governance that we have at the moment and the problems that it causes. Anyway, let us just go through the papers and see what the headlines are. They give a fair pot shot, a snapshot, hoop shot, whatever shot you want, of what's going on in the world. The Putin wants to divide Ukraine, and royal reforms is the overall summation from the BBC of what the news is all about. The Guardian: Putin wants to split Ukraine in two, like Korea, and that warning comes from the government in Kiev, the capital of Ukraine. And I am not a bit surprised. He's run into problems in terms of military force. What he thought was going to be easy has turned out not to be. The world is turning against him. His own people are turning against him. His own command is even turning against him. He's got to do something. And his latest ploy is to say, well, look, I'll tell you what, I will retreat as long as you actually split the country into two, much like North Korea and South Korea, and North Vietnam and South Vietnam in the past, and other countries in the world where they are divided. Two countries divided, and the one follows one political advocacy, and the other. If that's clear as mud, you say. The fact of the matter is something needs to be done. And Putin, I can understand. I'm not saying that it makes sense or that it's the sort of thing we should follow, but I understand why he's saying it. And that is, Ukraine is already divided into two. The eastern Ukraine feels very Russian. It feels safe under the old communist system of central government, central economy, of a planned economy. Whereas the western part of Ukraine is very modern and wants to belong to the EU and understands open market philosophies. The country is already split. Does that mean it should be split in governance? I have no idea. But I understand what Putin is saying he wants to do. And he's not as daft as he sounds with that. because it would actually make the country more governable and less threatened. However, since we can't believe anything that the man says, it could be just another ploy to soften up the West and let him get on with what he wants to do in terms of increasing the Russian empire. Yes, empire, use the word. We've got Commonwealth, they've got empire. Russia is trying to split Ukraine into two. Yes, I go along with that. And indeed, I think that he is. And it's not a bad ploy if you are in a particular situation. I'm not saying I approve of the ploy. I don't approve of Ukraine being split into two, but I understand why he's doing it. It is a strategy that could work, strangely enough. The Times. Putin wants to divide the Ukraine, West warned. And in being warned, will they pay any attention? They don't normally. Is they've got some idea that the way that they do things is the only way. Advice and acknowledgement and information seems to be happily ignored on many, many occasions, and we fall into the same old traps again. The Metro, Putin out to starve us all. The Ukrainian civilians are trapped in siege city and forced to drink sewer water. That's how bad things are, according to the Metro, the London paper, and that this is a deliberate ploy by Putin to get the civilian population to the point where it will surrender, even if the government won't. The Financial Times, Blinken softens Biden remarks by saying the US has no aim to oust Putin. Well, I've expressed in the past my doubts about Joe Biden. I think he's a product of the old political system in the United States, which the people tried to get rid of, only to find that they managed to get a worse one in Donald Trump. But the present system, Democrat, Republican, with their eyes and spectacles firmly rammed up their own, you know what, and not at all aware of what goes on either in the world or in their own backyard, in their own constituency, amongst their own population, is that needs desperate reform. But it didn't get it. And so they got Joe Biden, who is thrown up by the system. They got, after 4 years of Trump, they got what they deserved, the old system, which was worse than even the new president. And what Joe Biden said off the cuff is, well, we've got to get rid of this man. Let's get him out of power. Well, you don't say that publicly anyway about another country's leader, even if you are at war with him. And so the White House administration has had to do a lot of running around saying, no, we didn't mean that we're trying to get rid of him. And that's not part of the plan within the present peace talks or negotiations, or any negotiations for that matter. There is just a secondary headline in that Shapps to tell P&O Ferries to rehire staff as a new law negates the gains from sackings. The question of the P&O Ferry staff that was fired, summarily 800 of them, is caused a great uproar. And Grant Shapps says, well, don't worry, they're all going to get their jobs back. That's interesting to see who's going to pick up the tab. The Daily Telegraph, the backlash at Biden for Putin must go comment. And indeed, there should be a backlash too. And what some of the commentators are saying is the alliance between the EU, NATO, and the United States, of which we become a part in by default, by our size and our power. Okay, we're not a big country, but we're a powerful country. And apparently the differences over the war and Putin and how we should handle it have rocked the solidarity to the core. And of course, this Popinjay Macron, who keeps on popping up, and every time he opens his mouth, he's wrong. But every time somebody comes up, he opens his mouth, and everybody listens to him. And so he's sowing the seeds of dissent. Why do they do it? Because out of chaos, men who want power will get it. It only needs chaos to have the bad guys step in. The Mirror, a Royals showdown a battle of wills. The prince called a crisis summit to rescue his tour. He wanted to use his own voice and confront issues. He didn't want everything to be done while he was smiling and throwing kisses to the people, and disaster was ensuing in the background. The Mail. William, our end royal era of never explained. That's revealed after a bruising tour, the Duke's dramatic blueprint for when he's king. The only problem with it, and of course it often happens, is he's going to halve the staff. So a lot of people are going to lose their jobs. But then that can be done by wastage over a period of time. Doesn't mean that shock horror, people are going to be shown the door. The Sun, the Fresh Prince, Wills plots a royal reboot and the staff halved in shake-up. The Daily Express, a new council tax cut on the way for millions. Right, Rishi Sunak is having second thoughts now after saying what a wonderful budget that he put in front of everybody, and we could all live with it. But the after effects, as so often happens, is there are millions that were going to be impoverished. That they wouldn't have enough money to live. So he's had to take a step back and say, "Hey, okay, I'll take a look." So now it looks as if he's going to make a council tax cut to offset the fact that national insurance has been increased. The Star, all at sea. The P&O hiring crew without experience. A ferry ruled unfit and held in port. And the pressure on Hogwash, Captain Hogwash, the present CEO, to quit, are all there. And that was another key thing. So three main issues. One, the war in Ukraine, which is taken a new phase, in as much as now they fear that Putin's aim is to split the country, turn it into two. The royal tour and its effect upon Prince William, and his saying, "Hey, okay, look, this isn't fit for purpose," which echoes Boris Johnson for the last election, and now the P&O hiring issue, which it would appear that Parliament just put its foot down and said, no, that's not going to happen. So there you are. Those are the three things this morning. Let me just say for my rant, which is not a rant at all, I'm feeling quite benign this morning, and I want to see what's going on and whether any of these three things that I just mentioned will develop during the day. But last week I missed a couple of programs because I was in Cambridge, and I was at Harting College, and I was delivering some lectures with oh gosh, how wise. No, it's things that I know a little bit about. Basically, the whole thing was about protocol and English governance. And you've heard me have a go at it enough to realise that I know a little bit about it. Yeah, a little bit. Enough to be able to teach a couple of courses on it, which I did. But what I would like to say is I'm the first to have criticised academia, and I still do. It's still as narrow-minded as the rest of the world. It still does not contribute to a better life in the same sense that we would want it to. However, the calm in which young people learn and older people develop ideas and thoughts is absolutely magnificent. Beautiful buildings, very ancient, lawns and gardens meticulously kept. The calm and peace of a university campus, it's quite marvelous. It's quite marvelous, and to wake up to it calmed the breast, made you think, okay, I can perhaps be a bit more objective about what's happening in Ukraine, about what's happening in the United Kingdom, what's happening in the United States, what's happening in China, what's happening in India, or what's happening in many parts of the world, which at the moment is not a pleasant story. But it is a place to think. And if only, instead of putting up some of stupid buildings that we do. Took a little bit of time to understand the calming effect that beautiful buildings can have, the calming effect that the environment can have. Stop pushing bulldozers through beautiful scenic spots just for the sake of roads. You must have roads, you must have this, you must have that. Why? Why can't we set our minds to finding a system that doesn't ask us to desecrate and destroy our environment to get from point A to point B half an hour quicker? It's not that whether there's an answer or not. Nobody asks the bloody question. Nobody sits down and debates these things, not even in the pub anymore. And that's where the whole of mankind, I think, is going wrong, and where we've got problems. But then our present governance is just lousy. There are one or two politicians that I have time and respect for, not many. Some pretty awful people who purport to be our leaders, and who fail abysmally. And William says, they failed me, and I'm not going to give up on that. I'm not going to do it a second time. And good for him. And if we've got a king who's not afraid to set by example so that he doesn't actually tamper in areas that he shouldn't, and then God bless him, he's got my vote, as if he needs it. He gets it by right. Okay, that's it for this morning. Have a nice day. Have a nice week. Let's hope it all comes good. Toodle, toodle, pip. I think. Here we go. Yes, I think that's the one.